Builder.
Nice to see you, my friend.
Is this our first meeting?
I think it is. Our first proper meeting.
It is, I think so.
It would be interesting to have a conversation with you if you're free.
Let's do it.
It might not be on the topic that you think it is.
Fine, whatever it is about.
What I would like to talk to you about, actually, is why you apostatized.
Why I left Christianity.
Let me just put all my cards on the table.
Yeah,
Let me be clear about what my intention is and the reason for it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to debate your reasons.
Yeah.
What I want to do is learn from you and learn what your reasons were.
Right.
And what I would ask you to do is not to give sort of retrospective reasons that you now have, but to explain
what was going on in my head at the time.
Bingo.
Right. Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So that basically like a mini interview, a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not going to challenge you on anything you say.
You can challenge me, Bob. Let's
Well,
do it.
no,
If you want.
We can talk about God. The reason why I believe in God. But for the moment, what I'd like to talk about is you're on record as stating that you were once a Christian.
Yes.
I know some people who have known you in another life who testify the fact that you used to keep a Bible and so what?
I've never used to keep a Bible.
Okay, then maybe they're giving me some duff information and I'll go and talk to them about it.
My family used to.
Fair enough.
But myself, no.
So,
I wasn't that deep into it.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you, most of my family were Seventh-day Adventists. Well, all of my family are Seventh-day Adventists.
Yeah.
My mum was Seventh-day Adventist.
Yeah.
But she was in and out.
Right.
However, in my teenage years,
Yeah.
I was really close with my cousins.
Yeah.
So I used to go with my cousins to church,
Yeah.
not my mum.
Right.
So I was always with my cousins and my aunts at church.
Yeah.
And that is where I kind of built up my
Understanding
of
faith
Christianity
and
and
so
all
on
that
and
kind
so
of stuff.
forth.
Yeah. So
Because I am a white man and this heat is killing me, can we stand a bit closer to the shade?
I thrive in that, Bob.
Well, you can stand in the sunshine.
I thrive in the sun.
I'll stand in the shade. So go on. So you started going to church with your auntie and your cousins.
And my cousins, yeah.
And you said that you weren't that deeply into it. What do you mean by you weren't that deeply into it?
Okay, so let's say I was, because we went on Saturdays, right?
Yeah.
So 7 events go on Saturday.
So
let's say a solid 5 years.
Yeah.
A solid 5 years from maybe the ages of 11 up until about 16, 15, 16, I was in.
Yeah.
Every Saturday, go in.
Yeah.
And Sunday was Sunday school. We did Sunday school as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, a solid 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So it took up a fair chunk of your life. And what were you doing at church? You know, when you were going.
Well, we were like the same stuff. We listened to the pastor.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you know anything about the 7-day Adventist. So sunset on a Friday.
Yeah.
Everything
you
is
keep the Sabbath much like the Jews.
We keep the Sabbath. They kept the Sabbath properly. So from sunset, everything TV off, radios off, everything off, and we'd have what they called a quarterly, which was like our little pamphlets and stuff.
Yeah.
So we'd read from that.
Yeah.
We'd sit down as a family, read about certain verses from the Bible.
Yeah.
And certain.
And did you do that with your mum when she was more into it?
With my aunts.
With your aunts and your cousins.
And my cousins, yeah. So we do that like on a weekend.
Yeah.
And then on a Saturday morning, we'd go to church, be there for the whole day, sunset, and then.
And would it be fair to say that at this time, I mean, were you committed and convinced at that period in your life?
Because that's what you thought, yeah.
So you were, it was
Jesus Christ was my Lord and Saviour, and God was real and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
100%.
So when did the first conscious glimmerings of
Not until I was probably 21.
What started to happen then that unsettled that?
I tell you what started to happen with me. It would have to be a spiritual experience.
Okay.
And but not of the religious kind.
Yeah.
I probably had like a dream. I had a dream, and I was asking myself, what were African people doing before they were Christians? I don't know where the question came from.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But I started asking that question, and that set me on a search.
Yeah.
That set me on a search.
So there was obviously some kind of narrative that had sort of you'd sort of picked up at maybe at an unconscious level about
100%.
black identity.
100%.
You know, that raised this question, that proposed this. And so you asked this question to yourself, and then you said you had a dream, and
like I dreamt about it, like what were we doing, and then I would ask myself on a regular basis what we were doing, and then that question was niggling in the back of my mind because I was around a lot of people who were talking about black identity.
Yeah, who were these people? Where were they
friends.
Yeah.
Friends from like college and stuff.
Yeah. Were they Christians themselves?
Most of them were raised Christian.
But I hear a but there.
No, most of them raised Christian, but you know.
Weren't practicing?
Yeah, like part-time Christian. You know, a lot of people do part-time Christianity.
Yeah, totally.
They do
absolutely. Cultural Christians all over the UK do part-time Christianity.
Yeah, my family are raised Christian, but you know, I don't really practice, but I believe in God. Those type of people.
Yeah.
So and then you know,
and a lot of your friends who were talking about these black identity questions were coming from that perspective. Okay.
So that's what kind of sent me on a search, and I started researching like the history of Africa. It was about like early 21s, but I was still wearing my cross.
Yeah.
I still thought of Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I would say up until the age of about 24, 25, I was definitely a believer in Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And this question about black identity, was that something that was ever being addressed in the church?
No. Not in my church.
Yeah. So you had this fundamental question. Did you go and speak to your pastor about it, or?
Nah.
Why not?
I wasn't really that cool with pastor.
Okay.
Me and pastor weren't that cool.
All right. You weren't getting on with your pastor?
Nah, we weren't that cool.
Right.
We had a big disagreement when I kind of understood my black identity as well. So
yeah,
I think he could sense that I wasn't really part of the clique. I was the rogue.
Yeah.
My pastor could sense I was the rogue.
Right.
So he was.
So like, something even before you left the faith, something had already started in you. That meant that your pastor had seen you as someone slightly outside of
100%
of the camp.
100%.
And would you be able to pinpoint what that was?
I probably wasn't coming as much.
Yeah.
And I'd also tell you what, my cousin held like what they would call a men's meeting.
Yeah.
And men's meeting was like every Thursday. And so all the guys from like the church would come together and we'd speak about man stuff.
Yeah.
In relation to church, but a lot of man stuff.
Yeah.
And it's there that a lot of the stuff that I was learning would come out.
Yeah.
So I talked to him about black identity. I talked to him about, is Christianity best for us, all this kind of stuff.
And what were they saying?
And they were like, well, the Bible says this, and we shouldn't really think about race too much, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, from those meetings got back to pastor, and he was like, this guy's a little bit of a rogue.
Yeah.
So and then the family started talking.
Yeah, go on.
Then the family started talking and saying, oh, we heard in the men's meeting that you were saying certain things, and you know, what are you questioning and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know, I'm on my own journey, so I'm still going to talk. I've always been outspoken.
Yeah.
People can never shut me up. So I'm just that kind of person.
Fair enough. So you started down this. So what I'm hearing is that you were making friends amongst people that were asking the same questions as you.
Yes.
And when you tried to ask those questions in the church, you found that they weren't really being grappled with. And rather than your pastor sitting down with you and really wrestling with those questions, what they did is just sort of keep a distance from you and see you as
I tell you what was a nail in the coffin.
Go on.
There's a nail in the coffin.
I don't want to get to the nail in the coffin just yet.
Okay, go on.
I wanted to make sure I understand the journey first.
Yeah, the journey. This is.
And am I summarising the journey accurately?
Yeah, I have no problem with the journey. What they summarise.
So that process continues for a bit, and then what happens?
And then I think the nail in the coffin was I was in a men's meeting.
Yeah.
And pastor said he's going to come to the men's meeting that day because it was just all the guys, right?
Yeah.
So pastor decided to come, and you're getting an exclusive story out of me now, Bob. This is supposed to be for my documentary.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I jumped on you. You can use this as
Should
an
I tell
advert.
it? Should I tell it? Should I
This
say
is
it for the
up to you.
documentary? Because I'm making one. But all right, you get it.
Okay.
But I'll retell it. It's fine.
Yeah.
So Pastor did a talk on Black history,
Yeah.
but from a biblical perspective,
Right.
right? So what he done is that he used the curse of Ham
Yeah.
and the curse of Canaan, Ham, Canaan, right?
Yeah.
And showed us a bunch of black people who were all black in there, and he said that Ham was cursed, his son was Canaan, and that's how black people came around. And I listened to him for like an hour and a half tell this story, and then he showed what black people done and the civilizations, and I stood up and I was like, Pastor, essentially you're telling me we're from a cursed people. Essentially. You're telling me that the reason why we're black is because we're from a cursed people.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't buy it. I said, how can you as a black man...
Just for the record, I don't buy that either.
That's fine. But I was saying, how can you as a black man, with all black men amongst you, tell all of these guys that we're cursed, essentially? And so I said, Black History Month is supposed to be the upliftment of your spirit as a black person. You just told me that I'm cursed for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't buy it. And he was like, no, well, you need to understand. I said, no, I don't buy it. I said, I didn't use the term bullshit. Yeah. But I essentially said, you know, you're talking bullshit. Yeah. And I don't believe what you're saying because from my knowledge, black people didn't come from that curse. Yeah. So, and I walked out, and that was like...
And that was it.
That was sayonara.
Now, out of interest, why at that point did you not think to yourself, right, I'll go and find another church?
Because I was literally done with church.
You were done with church?
I was done.
So that experience was so negative to you?
No, because I knew that I existed before the church.
Yeah. When you say I guess you mean
I know
race?
black people existed before the church, and so that was
There's a good argument to say you existed before the rest of us, but carry on. You know, it's like,
I'm the daddy. I keep telling people.
Maybe we'll skip that.
All right, I'm the daddy, but what I'm saying is that when I realised that, because the narrative that black people generally got is slavery, of our history, let's say, it's slavery and colonization and all this kind of stuff. And so what it was for me is that I'm now coming into the realization that we existed before all of that stuff, and we were doing other stuff before all of that stuff. And so when I realized black people's relationship to Christianity, the current form of Christianity, I always say the current form because Christianity was you had the Coptic Christians and you also have the Ethiopian Christians before that, and it's a different form of Christianity. Yeah. Books got more, they got more books, all this kind of stuff, and they have different teachings. So I said I existed before, or we existed before Christianity existed. Yeah. And so I was done with. Yeah. I was done with Christianity. Yeah.
In terms of and so what I'm picking up from that, and as I say, that for those of you that are listening in, you're probably expecting a debate, but actually I'm just conducting an interview. So if you're expecting some kind of debate, you're going to be disappointed, I'm afraid. But what I'm hearing from that is that fundamentally questions were not being addressed in your fellowship that needed to be addressed. Were there other things going off in your life as well? Like because
I was doing quite well. That's when I was really acting. I was on TV. I had my girlfriend. We were like stable. Like it was really like my life was cool. Yeah. It was literally that part because she started my girlfriend at the time. She started saying oh, I think I want to get more into my Christianity. And I was like, what? I'm just getting out of it. What are you talking about? And she was like, no, my friends are going to church more. And I'm like, no. Come over here. Let's talk. But we're no longer together. Right. But I was what, 24, 25? Long time ago. Yeah. The hair's gone now.
And since then, where has your journey taken you?
Well, it took me...
Because am I right or wrong in thinking you've described yourself as a black nationalist?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Now, just pan out for me what that means.
Okay, so I am for the forward movement and upliftment of black peoples on a global scale. Yeah. So essentially. Pan-Africanism, you call it Pan-Africanism?
Yeah, I was gonna use that phrase.
You can use Pan-Africanism as well.
Yeah.
So I really want to deal in race-first politics, and I've always said to people, the reason why I want to deal in race-first politics isn't because I'm a racist or isn't because I hate people. Yeah. It's because what I found is I've been around the globe. I've been to all places. I've been to Lebanon. I've been to bloody Spain. I've been to Mauritius. I've been all over the globe, and what I found is a constant, and the constant is wherever you go, black people seem to be at the bottom of the socio-economic ladder.
Yeah.
Globally. And so if we all have, I've said to black people, if we have that collective experience, then we have something in common. My phone's ringing, sorry.
Are you needing to stop?
Nah, that's all right.
Yeah.
You can wait. And so if we have that collective experience, then we need to band together as a collective, because I would say if Christians as a group, let's say, were at the bottom of socio-economic globally, they would say,
in some cases,
but you would probably say, hey, as Christians, we need to band together, get together,
exactly
and right, listen.
That's exactly what I said.
Chinese people, whatever group it is, you would need to band together. And so when I find this constant, I say to black people, listen, let's band together.
Would it surprise you that I in no way oppose any of your aims?
No, of course not.
Now, and I don't oppose any of your aims because of my faith.
Okay.
Because I think that those people who are the most socially excluded, the picture of justice that we receive in the Old Testament is that God says that you care for the weakest in society. So when God was talking about that in the Old Testament, he was talking about widows and orphans, because they were the stranger amongst you is what he talked about.
Right.
And he was talking about how he was talking about how true fasting for him was that you set the prisoner free from their bonds, that you helped the widow, that you helped the orphan, that you cared for the stranger and the refugee and so on. And so the idea that there is a group of people who are at the very bottom of the social spectrum, to me it flows very well with my faith.
Right.
The things that hold them back should be taken off.
Okay. I don't disagree with that.
But Christianity is not one of those things.
No, Christianity keeps us there.
Hold on. Has Christianity kept Africans in Egypt and Ethiopia held back? Or did the church develop and sustain and nourish a culture in Ethiopia and Egypt?
I deal with, to answer that question, I deal with psychology. I like to deal with psychology.
Yeah.
And I've always said, there's this whole thing going about now about the victor and the victim. The psychology of the victor and victim.
Yep.
The psychology of the victim waits for someone to save them. The psychology of the victor saves themselves.
I agree.
And so...
And in Christ we're more than conquerors.
Right, but you're still waiting on Christ to save you.
And in Christ we're more than conquerors, because he that is in us is greater than he who is in the world. And as Christians...
Right, but are you still waiting on Christ to save you from this?
I am saved and I am being saved.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is you're waiting on heaven. Like you're waiting on a so I don't believe in heaven, you see. So I'm going to a psychology that says you can have your heaven. So like I made a video the other day about, sorry to go on a filibuster, but the psychology of paradise lost and paradise inherited.
Yep.
And we have different people on the globe, on the planet, that have a different psychology. So if you are born into what people call paradise, you don't develop a paradise lost psychology.
With respect, sorry, you're sidestepping my point.
All right, go on.
Because you have suggested as a premise that Christianity is holding black people back. And I am giving to you as evidence to the contrary, using the Coptic and Ethiopian churches.
Right.
And the fact that if you look at church history, many Africans contributed to the development of the Christian faith, like St. Augustine.
But did they do that because they were Christian or because they were African?
They did that because they were, well, I don't think that, well, firstly, there wasn't a Pan-African identity to speak of.
No, I know that, but I'm saying, what I'm trying to use some, what I'm trying to say, Africans have been building societies before Christianity came along.
Yes, every race has had civilization before any religion came along.
So it's no surprise that a civilization or a people that build civilizations for a living can take any system and still build a civilization because it's in them. They didn't build.
That's human nature.
Yeah, exactly. But they didn't build it because they were Christian.
But they didn't build it because they were black either.
No, they built it because that's in them to build a society.
That's human nature because
so you don't need Christianity to build a society.
We're made in the image of God.
That's your belief now.
Allow me to express my point. Allow me to express my point. We're made in the image of God. And as such, because we are made in the image of God, we reflect our Creator. And as our Creator creates, so we instinctively, and if you read the poetic story of Genesis, it is a story where God brings order to chaos. That is the story of Genesis. And instinctively, human nature...
You're going to preach to me now, Bob.
No, I didn't interrupt you, Sarah. I did not interrupt you. Don't interrupt me. In terms of the Genesis story, we are said to be made in the image of God. And so we see within our nature this desire to create order out of the chaos of the world around us. Now, truth, as the philosophers would say, is that which most closely reflects reality. That's the philosopher's definition of truth. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that the Christian narrative is that which accords most closely with the reality of truth around us. So I am not suggesting that these Africans helped to contribute to the church because they were Christian.
Okay.
So I'm going to circle back around to that.
Right.
But I'm also saying that they're not doing it because they're African either. They're doing it because they're human.
They're human, yeah, I agree.
They're human. Now, the fact that they became Christian meant that they focused their energies to the church.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in a very real way, I, as a European Christian, am indebted to African Christians for my inheritance in church history.
Yeah, of course, because you've got the Coptic Christians and the Ethiopian ones, of course.
Well, no, they grew from that. Your argument, Christianity holds black people back.
The current form, remember I said current form?
You did say current form. What I'm saying to you is that Ethiopian and Coptic Christianity...
They didn't have this form?
They still exist. They've existed for 2,000 years. Well, they're as old as anything.
The Christianity that you follow is not Coptic Christianity or Ethiopian Christianity.
No, it's not. No.
Right, so it's not that form. You have a different form.
Actually,
you have the more Catholicized form of Christianity.
I am simply a Christian, and I am as happy to go to a Coptic church as I am to go to a Catholic church.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say to you though, like if we strip it down,
yeah,
you have a more Catholicized form of Christianity,
whereas
the Coptics and the Ethiopians don't.
Well, actually, Catholic forms of Christianity, the Copts are Catholic forms of Christianity.
Okay, but the Copts were before the Catholic Church, though.
They grew simultaneously. The church in Rome and the church in Alexandria grew simultaneously. St. Peter...
Can I get a date for that?
Yeah. You can go and speak to the Coptic Christians and go and see who they say is the first founder of their church, and they'll say it's St. Mark. St. Mark, who wrote the Gospel of Mark.
Okay, but
go and speak to them.
But Coptic Christianity has been around before Catholicism, though.
Sorry, how many Coptic Christians do you know?
I don't move with Christians like that.
Okay, right. I know loads of Coptic Christians.
Okay.
I know loads of Coptic.
So do you know the origins of the Coptic Christians?
Yes.
In the Nile Valley?
It started in Alexandria.
Yeah, the Nile Valley, Africa.
Started in Alexandria, the city.
Okay, so is it a coincidence that from a great civilization building people like the Egyptians, and they had their deities and their principles and their spirituality, is it a coincidence that right around the same area that another form of spirituality popped up, like Christianity?
Right, well, let's just deal with that, because it seems to imply something that I have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
Human civilization is something that has been congruous since the first man. The idea of creating order...
Who was?
Adam is the poetic description of it.
All right, Bob.
So
we're going to disagree there, you know that, right?
Yeah, I don't mean that literally. I'm just talking about the first man, of which Adam is a symbol. But the human nature from its very beginning has always sought to create order and civilization. The Greeks also had a very well-developed civilization. So did the Romans. So did the Parthians. The Babylonians. The Assyrians.
Did they all borrow from one another?
They were all cross-fertilizing one another. Right. All cross-fertilizing.
So Christianity was an amalgamation of those different spiritual systems?
You're jumping too far ahead.
Okay.
So in terms of the Christian faith developing in Egypt, it developed at the same time in the Greek-speaking world, in Greece and in Rome.
Well,
So my point to you I'm making is that Christianity is as much African as it is European.
But if we call it Judeo-Christianity, if we call it Judeo-Christianity,
which is to give it its proper name,
we will see that the main patriarch of the 5 books was raised in Egypt,
I got no dispute the fact that Egypt has played a huge amount of influence within biblical history. I got no problem with that at all.
So then where would Moses have got his teachings from?
So what was your point from that?
Because, like I said, it's no coincidence. Before, like I said, it's no coincidence. I said, or is it coincidence that a great civilization building people who have their own spiritual systems and their own temples and their own principles and their own gods and all this kind of stuff, is it coincidence that Judeo-Christianity sprang from the same area?
Well, let me address that directly.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is that the Christian faith started in Palestine based upon a claim that Christ had risen from the dead. And that so radicalized the first believers that they went out in all different kinds of directions to proselytize this belief that Christ was the Jewish Messiah and the Savior of the world.
So what about Judeo-Christianity?
I am talking about Judeo-Christianity.
No, Moses started it.
No,
that's where the first 5 books come from.
Judeo-Christianity historically begins, and it
doesn't begin with Moses, you're saying?
Academic figures, Linda Woodhead, Paul Fletcher, countless others, historians of religious history, will tell you that the starting point of Judeo-Christianity was in 1st century Palestine.
So it's not with Moses then, is what you're saying?
Judaism, the Mosaic covenant, started with Moses.
Right.
However, the point that civilizations embraced Christianity proves nothing, because there were civilizations all the way around the world, and all those civilizations brought something into the church, because the church is for all nations. My faith takes what is best in any culture it encounters and magnifies it, and seeks to reduce that which is worst according to the prism of Judeo-Christian value systems and ethics. It's not like Islam, where we say that you've got to, take on Arab culture to be a good Muslim.
I hear that.
Yeah, that's not our faith.
I hear that. No, I hear that.
And the proof of that is the Coptic and Ethiopian church. They brought African culture into the church, and as a Christian, that inheritance is as much mine as the Sistine Chapel is theirs.
Right.
They are as much the owner to me of Westminster Abbey as I am of the cathedrals that have been dug into the mountains of Ethiopia.
That is a very poetic way to look at stuff, I would say. However,
it's a beautiful way, no?
It's a beautiful way to look at stuff. However,
now let me ask you.
If we strip it back, Bob, if we strip it back,
which you keep trying to do.
Yeah, we got to strip it back. We've got to.
Go on.
So if we go back to, like I said, back to the origins of, let's say, Judaism or the Mosaic Law.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Moses was raised within Africa.
Yes.
So he was raised within, according to the Bible, he was raised in the house of Pharaoh.
Yes. We've got no problem with any of this.
Moses, Acts 7 verse 22 says, and Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in their words and deeds.
Yeah.
And so Moses himself, or the Bible itself, states that Moses was raised in here and got most of his stuff from there.
Yeah.
Right.
Got no issue with this.
Right. However, when you get to Moses, okay, when we get to the story of Moses, we get Moses getting stuff from God.
Which he does.
But he was raised there.
So your point is, what you're doing there, Sarah, is you're selectively taking some verses that talk about the African influence and saying...
But we can go to Egypt, though, and we can find those. We can find those 10 Commandments on the walls of Egypt.
Yeah, that's why they're called natural law. Because the reason why the church describes the 10 Commandments as natural law is because it has never claimed those 10 Commandments are unique to the Judeo-Christian faith, but are something that every civilization could achieve by the use of their own reason. And so,
but it just so happened that God had to give Moses those laws.
God incorporated,
even though Moses was raised in Egypt and already knew those laws.
God incorporated those laws into the Mosaic covenant. That you go and look at church teaching, Sarah, because it's clear to me that you are not familiar with it. Church teaching says that there is the natural law and the revealed law. The natural law is that which any civilization, regardless of revelation, can achieve through the use of their own reason, such as don't kill,
but Moses
don't
knew
murder.
That. Before God gave Moses that,
completely,
Moses knew, because he murdered one of the Pharaoh's soldiers, right?
Yeah.
And he ran because he knew it wasn't right to do it.
So let me go.
So Moses, your Bible states Moses was raised in the house, knew all the wisdom of the Egyptians. However, Moses, or the story of Moses, is that he got these natural laws.
No,
as you would,
you're being selective.
From God, that's what he says.
No, you're being selective.
But we can go to the walls of Egypt and find those laws.
So listen.
So did Moses get the laws from Egypt, or did he get the laws from God?
So listen to what I'm saying to you. Listen to what I'm saying to you. The Christian faith teaches that natural law any civilization can achieve through the use of their own
Did Moses
reason.
teach that?
What?
You said Christianity teach that.
Yes, this is what the church teaches.
Did Moses teach that?
I can't say whether Moses taught that. But
so then who am I to know? I'm going back to the story of Moses.
But my authority is the church, not Sa Ra Garvey and not Sa Ra Garvey's
I'm going back to Moses, though. You're going back to the church, a bunch of people who didn't get the revelation. Moses got it.
Let me finish my point and then engage with it.
All right, go for it.
So here's my point. Mosaic law is something that combines elements of natural law with elements of revelation. Okay? The fact that God stamps his approval on things that other civilizations have achieved through their own reason doesn't mean, and we're not arguing, and I am not arguing, stood here to you, that Moses never brought anything that he learned from Egypt into his life.
Right, okay.
No. The Egyptians achieved their knowledge of natural law through their own reason and intelligence.
Yes, but the story is though.
Can I finish my point?
All right, sorry, go on. And then after,
Can I finish my point?
Yeah, just finish your point.
So, because and ladies and gentlemen, this is how debate should be at Speaker's Corner.
Yeah.
Unlike when the Dawa team come in and start heckling everybody and shouting at everybody, this just proves that people can have an intelligent, normal discourse.
It all depends on the person you're speaking to.
Well, I mean, the Dawa team don't leave me with much confidence. But anyway, so the point that I'm making to you, and please listen and then engage.
Go for it.
Natural law is something that is structured within human nature and something that we can see with the use of our reason. It does not take revelation for you to know that murder is wrong, that stealing is wrong, that committing adultery is wrong. You don't need revelation for those things. Okay? Egypt had those things without any revelation from God, and so did other civilizations as well. Egypt is not unique.
Agreed.
The Babylonians had it also.
Agreed.
Now, Moses has a supernatural experience with the divine. He has an encounter with Elohim, with Yahweh, the burning bush, and this radicalizes his life, and he takes the people out of Egypt. Now, when they come out of Egypt, they have been slaves for 400 years. They are essentially savages. And God brings his law, brings his covenant to them, dealing with them where they are, the savages that they are. Okay? Now, I am not denying that Moses was influenced by Egypt, that he knew these things.
Right.
The fact that God then takes these natural laws and brings them into the Mosaic covenant doesn't mean that they are not also from God, because God is the creator. These things are natural laws. They are structured within the human heart. You can see them just using your own reason. They are there because the creator created them in you.
Yeah, but what you're saying is, what you're asking me to do is, right, I'm trying to be as objective and logical as possible.
Yeah.
What you're asking me to believe, Moses already knew these laws.
Yes.
That God revealed them to him, again, even though we already knew them, and then he gave them to his people. And it's
more
not
like a stamp of authority.
And it's not, Moses already knew them and then revealed them to his people.
Where does it say he doesn't know them?
No, I said he knew them.
All right, hold on. When he murdered the Egyptian god, what did he do?
He ran.
Why?
Because he knew it was wrong.
Exactly. So the Bible.
They knew there'll be a comeuppance.
So exactly. So the Bible isn't suggesting that Moses didn't know them. The Bible is stating quite clearly that he knew.
So then, did God write them, or did Moses write them for his people? That's the question.
Well, the thing to get from the Book of Exodus isn't like the thing to get particular about is the fact that God has taken his people, he has chosen a people, and he brings them out of Egypt, which actually flows into the very narrative that you're interested in, which is this idea.
God chose a people?
Yes, God chose a people. Yeah. He chose a people.
Do you believe that?
Yes, I do.
Even though he created all people, he chose a particular set?
Absolutely, I believe.
So that's superiority then?
No, because it's not about superiority. It is about this people being his people as an example to the world. And God has used the Jews as an example.
But that's what the Muslims say.
What?
The Muslims say that God chose them, as the example to the world.
No, you're confusing two things, because Judaism as a faith understands itself to be something that you can't convert into. It is an ethnicity and a people. Islam is actually much more like Christianity in that both our religions state that anyone from any ethnicity can join.
So you
Judaism doesn't
so you actually
say that.
believe that the Jews were chosen by God?
Yes.
Bob, I thought you were smarter than that, bro.
I am smart. But my intelligence.
So God made all of these people on the globe.
My intelligence is.
And chose a particular group of
for
people.
For what purpose?
For the purpose of bringing His law into the rest of the world.
No, this is. You see, what you're doing here.
Why didn't God choose everyone?
May I reply? So you've asked
Is
two
that
questions.
smart, though?
You've asked two questions. Allow me to reply.
Go for it.
So question one was, God created all people. Why did He choose the Jews? Well, He chose the Jews because He wished to establish a historical example and an historical context into which He will then enter history, and through which He will work in history. And He will do that because He wants to demonstrate that there is one God, the true God, Yahweh, and that through the people of Israel, the
Everyone's
nations
got the true
will
God,
be blessed.
Bob. This is what I'm trying to
I
say.
didn't interrupt you, Sarah. Don't interrupt me.
Sorry.
You're better than that.
I am.
You're better than that. And remember, you're an example right now to everyone who's watching.
And so are the Jews.
Absolutely. So they are. They are. And here's why it's an example, ladies and gentlemen, is because no people in history have been more persecuted than the Jewish people, and yet they stand astride in the nations.
Whoa.
Let me finish.
Whoa.
Let me finish.
Whoa.
Sarah, let me finish.
Whoa.
You asked two questions.
Bob,
you asked two questions.
I'm an African man.
You asked two questions.
I'm an African man.
You asked two questions.
Sorry. I'm not going to let that slide, though. I
Questions.
can't let that slide.
You can come back to it.
I can't let that slide.
You can come back to it.
Jews have had
You
persecution.
can come back
but
to
to
it.
say they are the most persecuted people.
In history.
Have you read African history?
There is no African people to speak of. There are tribes in Africa, and each
Like
of those
I said,
tribes
collectively,
see themselves as being distinct
The
from
black
one another.
peoples of the globe have a collective Holocaust, if you want to call it, that I'm not trying to even like...
We're not
it's
talking
not
about
even
the
a
Islamic
competition,
slave trade.
But I'm just saying, why not?
We're not talking about
Why
the
not?
Islamic slave trade.
Why not?
Because we're talking. You want to talk to me about biblical history. That's
Yeah, but
where you started.
But you said historically
You're
the
jumping
Jews
around
are
topics.
the most persecuted people.
Yeah, let me. You
No,
didn't.
Africans
You only
are the
heard
most-
the first part. What did I say after that?
Sorry, go on.
Exactly.
Go on.
You were so busy interrupting me, Sarah.
All right,
you
go on.
didn't listen to the answer.
All right, go on.
So
If
listen to
I,
the answer.
If I went too quick, go for it.
Right.
But
so
I'm still going to
the
disagree after
Jewish
it, though.
people are look at them today as a people. Again and again and again, they have come back from absolutely desperate situations that have wiped out other nations completely. Yeah, the Romans tried to wipe them out. The Nazis tried to wipe them out. The Muslims tried to oppress them. Even the church oppressed them. And yet the Jewish people today, for their genius and for the blessing that God has given them, we are all blessed. Their genius is why you have your mobile phone. Their genius is why you're able to use sat-nav. Their genius is behind so much of the modern world that we enjoy, as according to prophecy that God would bless the nations through the seed of Abraham, through his sons Isaac and Jacob and their descendants. And this living prophecy, we are all the beneficiaries of.
Can I stick a pin there?
Yeah.
Do you remember before when I spoke about the curse of Ham?
Yep.
And you said you don't believe it?
I don't believe in the curse.
Okay.
I don't believe that black people generally are cursed because of this text in Ham.
In Ham.
I don't
Okay.
believe that.
Okay, so you said that, but you said the Jewish people. Are you talking about the European Jew that we see today?
I'm talking about anyone who's a descendant of Abraham
But
through the line of Isaac and Jacob.
okay, so are you talking about the ones in Israel?
I'm talking about Israeli Jews, European Jews,
Sephardic
African Jews.
But if you talk about African Jews now,
Yeah.
if you talk about African Jews,
Yeah.
we can see how African Jews are treated
Right.
differently to the European Jew, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and this is where I come in,
Go
right?
on.
This is where I come in, because I say, collectively as African people, it doesn't matter. So imagine the African people, as you say, the African Jews are of the lineage of Abraham. Are they treated that way?
I'll say again.
The African people that you say, or the African Jews, that are of the lineage of Abraham, are they treated that way?
By who?
By their own Jewish ummah, by their own Jewish community.
I don't know. I can't say I've ever looked into it. I can't honestly say.
Okay, so
you're asking me a question of which I've never researched. So I don't know.
We have Operation Moses. Have you heard of Operation Moses?
Sorry,
hang on, I've got to go into
this
this now.
Skipping around.
No, because you said
I want to bring us back to this point.
You said according to prophecy.
Yes.
Right. The reason why the Jews are favoured by God.
The reason,
right? And they're the reasons why we got the mobile phone and this and all this.
What was the greatest blessing that the Jews ever brought to us?
No, but hang on. When we go to the African Hebrew, the African Jew, they're not treated the same way as a European Jew are treated. They're not.
By who?
By their own European Jewish brethren.
Take that up with the Jews. You're asking me to defend what the Jews are doing to other Jews. I have no part in that. That's not my issue.
But then wouldn't that go against prophecy?
No, because the point
you're saying there's only a particular group of European Jew that are favoured.
I have never said European.
No, you don't have to say it.
I haven't said.
But that's what we can see.
No, that's what you're saying.
No, but that's what we can see, though.
No, that's what you're saying. I have not said that.
Bro,
did anyone hear the word European Jew slip out of my mouth in that way? No.
Bro.
Yeah, but here's the problem, Sarah, is that...
That's why I speak about
Sarah.
black politics, because it doesn't matter where black people stay.
Sarah.
They're treated the same.
Because
they're treated the same globally, bro.
Because black nationalism is so important to you, you have misheard what I've said. Because I have never, ever sought to defend any kind of discrimination or even suggested in any way that the European Jew is better than the African Jew.
You don't have
Those
to.
words did not trip out of my mouth.
No, I never said they did, and I'm not saying you did.
You said that you tried to imply
what I'm saying to you,
that was what I was talking about, and I was talking about something entirely different.
Okay, but what I'm saying to you is, when we look at the Jewish community, okay, the favoured ones by God, as you put it.
Yeah.
And there are many people within this favoured community. You've got Asian Jews, you've got African Jews, you've got European Jews.
Yeah.
From what you say, the seed of Abraham.
Yeah.
Within that community,
yeah.
the African ones seem to be at the bottom of the socio-economic ladder. So they're not treated the same as, because when people say,
by who?
But hang on, wait there, bro.
In Africa.
Wait.
So by other Africans.
Wait. When you say Jew,
yeah,
a picture automatically paints in your mind of what a Jew is, whether you believe it or not. You don't think of an African when you say the word Jew.
That may not be the same thing that you've got and I've got.
You don't think of an African when you say the term Jew.
I'm sorry.
No one does.
I'm sorry, that's not true.
If I say the Jews, are we thinking about African people or Asian people?
What does that prove?
Or
You're talking to
European
me.
People?
If they have a different perspective, what does that prove? You're talking to me,
we don't
Sarah.
think like that though, because we're psychologically
Me
programmed.
and you don't think the same on a lot of things. So what do it surprise you that we think
man.
differently about when we talk about Jews? So let me
have an objective conversation.
I am trying to have an objective conversation with you, because the thing that is your concern is black nationalism, and the original premise that sent us on this very.
Well, we were actually talking about why I stopped becoming a Christian.
Absolutely. And we're going to split this conversation into two, I hope.
Two parts.
So my point to you is that the Coptic and Orthodox churches in Africa that are as old as anything in Europe demonstrate that Christianity is not a hindrance to black development.
Remember, I spoke about the current form.
When I am speaking of Christianity,
you're speaking about in its entirety.
I am speaking about the global church.
I'm not.
Right.
I don't.
Right. So what you're doing now
I'm
is
talking about the white Jesus and the curse of Ham and all that.
Yeah,
it's a hindrance to black people.
Let's just deal with that the white Jesus.
Yeah, let's deal with that.
The very first picture of Christ that I ever saw when I became a Christian was not of a white Jesus.
What was it of?
It was of a black Jesus.
Fantastic. Where's that one?
Yeah, but just Google it. You can find it.
No, where is it in general day-to-day life?
If you go to any Orthodox church in the Middle East, you will see Jesus not painted as a white man. He is painted as an olive-toned man, which, according to Kemet philosophy, means he's part of the tribe of Ham. Now,
whose philosophy?
Callum. Speak to Callum. He's talking about all these groups having their origins in Africa. Okay. However, the point that I'm making to you is that Jesus, when I was in Japan, Jesus was portrayed as Japanese. I know for a fact, because I've seen them with my own eyes, that the Coptic Christians portray Jesus as an Egyptian, Ethiopian Christians portrayed Jesus as a black African.
Right, because that Ethiopian Christianity, right, came before, like I said, the current form of Catholicized Christianity.
No,
I said this before to
and
you,
I corrected you then, and I'll correct you again. The Coptic form of Christianity, the Ethiopian form of Christianity, is Catholic. Because the thing that defines a Catholic church is the structure of bishop, priest, and deacon.
Okay, but what you are doing, okay?
Talking about my faith.
Yeah, but what you're saying is you look at Christianity as a...
Which it is. A global community.
But it's not, though.
It is.
It's not.
It is.
It's not, though. Because you have different forms of
Shall
Christianity.
I prove it to you?
Yeah, but you have different forms of Christianity, bro.
Shall I prove it? Ladies and gentlemen, if you are a Christian, and I only want practicing Christians to do this, will you raise your hand, please? Right. Could you just tell me where you're from? What country?
I'm half Sri Lankan, half English.
Half Sri Lankan, half English. French.
Nigerian.
Nigerian. What country?
French, British.
French, British.
London.
London.
Irish.
Irish. English. The Christian, Peruvian. The Christian community is a global community, and it includes whites, blacks, Hispanics,
We know this.
Irish.
We know this.
We
In Nigeria, what color is Jesus?
That's irrelevant. It's
Now it's
no,
irrelevant.
red herring.
In Nigeria, what color is Jesus?
No,
please?
what colour does it say in the Bible?
My friend?
No,
I asked you a
question, no.
specific question.
We're not going what's
My
portrayed.
Nigerian
No,
brother now.
I'm not.
Oh yeah, listen to me. Okay. Oh yeah, listen to me now. Oh yeah, what color is Jesus now? Exactly, yo.
I want to
What color is Jesus now?
just answer the question directly.
What color is
honestly.
Jesus in Nigeria?
In
He's
your
not the Bible.
experience, in your experience,
Well, some people.
how is it portrayed? In your what
This
What
is
have I
our
seen?
problem,
Okay,
yo.
what have I
We
seen?
can't just be
I've
honest,
seen
bro.
some people portray him as a white Jesus, some people as black as well. Yeah.
So he's saying that
There's
in
black
Nigeria-
Jesus in Nigeria. Are you saying there's black statues of Jesus in Nigeria?
There may be some. I don't know all of Nigeria.
So you haven't seen any
I've
yourself? Fair enough. No, your point's valid. I think that it is a mistake of the missionary movements of the past that the artistic representation of Christ should be European in Africa. For me, I find that embarrassing.
But what color
Yeah.
was he though, according to the Bible?
He doesn't mention a colour. Doesn't mention a colour.
Revelations 1 verse 14?
That's a metaphorical imagery.
Ah, no,
In
it's
that same
metaphorical.
picture, he also has a sword coming out of his mouth and
Right.
blazing like the sun.
So then-
So you
so-
can't
no,
use
no,
that.
No. That should be the image then. If that is the only represented image, or that is the only biblical image we have of him.
If you're going to make that
No,
argument,
hang on.
go on.
If that's the only, listen.
Make that point.
If we go to the Bible and he's described as a burnt bronze skinned man
Yep.
with white woolly hair,
Yep.
right? That should be the image that we're portraying of him.
Right.
Right?
And
And if he's got swords coming out of his mouth, then so be it.
Okay.
That is the only representation we have of him.
Except-
this guy on the cross, this white
except
dude,
Sa Ra
comes from
Garvey,
where?
except Sa Ra Garvey does not dictate Christian art.
Nah, but the Bible should.
No, Sa Ra Garvey doesn't
But the
dictate.
Bible should, though.
Hold on. Sa Ra Garvey does not dictate Christian art.
But the Bible should.
Christian art has been debated heavily within the church, and we have come to a settled conclusion on this matter.
What is
and
it?
that settled conclusion is that Christ can be represented according to the people that Christ is saving. So if Christ is saving the white European, it is acceptable to represent him as a white European. If he is saving the black African, then he can be represented as a black African. If he is exactly, because Christ is relevant to all people.
But you don't understand.
An art is simply communication.
But you don't understand the
Of
psychological
those values.
effects. Because
I
you're
disagree with
but
white
because you're white,
Jesuses in
yeah, I hear you,
Africa.
but
We are
because-
on the same page.
But because you're a white European, you don't understand the psychological effects of an African constantly seeing a white European as God or as the Son of God. You don't understand those psychological effects. Now, when I asked this brother whether Jesus was white or not, did
No,
you see,
in Nigeria. You said in
Yeah,
Nigeria.
in Nigeria.
And you
Did
were talking about
hang on,
art.
Listen, did you see how much he stuttered? It doesn't matter. You see? That's what we have to deal
No.
with, bro. We have
No.
to deal with that.
No,
Because psychologically, he's
No,
still trying
shall-
to get
shall I
it.
tell you what was
it
really
doesn't
happening
matter.
there?
It matters, bro. If
What
it
was
doesn't-
really happening there is
if it
he's a
doesn't matter-
Christian, he wants to support me and he doesn't want to help your argument. That's why he was stuttering. That's what was really happening. That was what was really happening. The fact
don't
of the
believe
matter
that.
is, Sarah, the fact of the matter is,
Yeah,
Sarah,
yeah, let's go,
is,
let's go.
is you've chucked the baby out with the bathwater. I agree with you that the church should have been addressing your concerns and your questions. And the church needs to address the question of black identity. It really does. And it must do so by demonstrating the truth, the historical truth, that Christianity has been as much African as it has ever been European. And using the Coptic and the Orthodox Church to demonstrate that truth. As well as the fact
I agree with
that the church has been Middle Eastern as much as it has been European. And it has been Southeast Asian as much as it has been European. Because, you might not know this, but one of the apostles, St. Thomas, went to India and founded a church in India, whilst the churches were being set up in Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. So my faith is truly global, and the church is a home for all people, including black people like you. And it isn't
in this current form.
The current form of the church is a global community. I've just demonstrated that.
And I said,
brother, am I superior to you because I'm white?
And I'm not superior to you.
Am I superior to you because I'm white? Am I superior to you because I'm white? So we've got three people from three different parts of the world, and none of them think I'm superior because I'm white.
I've never asserted that you were superior.
You're talking about a white Jesus.
Yes, but I'm not asserting that you're superior.
I'm
saying,
not claiming to be.
Right, and I never said you were. But what I'm saying is the psychological effects of having the white Jesus. Okay, black people in Africa have had a white Jesus image.
Ethiopians.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Okay.
In its current form, the black people in Africa, with the coming of slavery, with the coming of colonization, have had a white Jesus imprinted, emblazoned within their psychology.
And I agree, let that go.
Hang on. Black people aren't even ready to let it go yet. Now hang on. They're not ready to let it go.
Yeah.
Because they have had that for so long that they actually believe Jesus Christ is a white man.
I am yet to meet, don't get me wrong, I know there are some American Christians that actually think Jesus is white. I've seen them, and it was hugely embarrassing. Yeah. However, I have...
there's a white man on the
Hold on one second, because what I think you've done there, Sarah, is very patronising to African Christians. Because what you're assuming is that they cannot be educated or erudite enough to realise that Jesus wasn't white. And I am pretty sure, I am pretty certain that actually the whole 35 million Ethiopian Christians are quite convinced that Jesus wasn't white.
But when you know that,
the 15 million Coptic Christians know that Jesus wasn't white, and that actually the vast majority of Christians from the rest of Africa know that Jesus wasn't white.
Should I show you Should I show you?
Hold on one second.
Should I show you?
Sarah.
The huge statue of Jesus being built in Nigeria right now.
I'll believe that it's white. Okay.
Oh, he's whiter than snow, bro.
I believe you, right?
Okay.
Right. But the point is, Africans searching for an African identity don't need to reject Christianity, because Christianity is rooted in Africa.
It's the truth as well, isn't it?
It's rooted in Africa, brother.
Okay.
Yeah? As a Christian, all of those beautiful cathedrals that were carved out of the mountains in Ethiopia, yeah? That's my inheritance.
The Church of Ladabella?
Yeah, my inheritance.
It's my inheritance.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I
can
African. But I can engage with it more fully because I'm Christian. Now, you and here's the thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there and
exactly,
and stuff.
But I would, and so would the Ethiopian
pray.
Christians. So what I'm saying to you is I have more in common with those African Christians than you do.
100%.
Thank you.
In your faith, but not in your genetics.
Yes. I agree.
Right, so but like I say, what we're coming from.
But genetics don't decide your education.
Yeah, but genetics don't. Yeah, but that's fine.
And genetics don't decide your culture.
But genetics don't decide. Like I said, genetics don't decide your faith. Faiths can change.
They do.
Right. Those people that are Christians today could be Muslim tomorrow, and then they could change from Muslim to a Buddhist or a whatever.
Brother.
Right? So that's what I'm saying. But we're coming to this conclusion based on two totally different foundations. You understand that?
I agree with you completely. Right. But what you're doing is you're saying that we've got all these socio-economic problems that black people face.
Yes.
Right? And then
white Jesus is a hindrance.
And what I'm saying to you is I agree that African Christians should get rid of white images of Jesus because it just seems
the white
silly.
Man said that. Listen to the white man, guys.
I am saying that. Christians who are from Africa, stop having white Jesuses in your churches.
And white Adam and Eve as well.
And white Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. I'm not against that. But hold on one second. The socio-economic problems that are faced by
Sorry,
by black people, yeah, has got nothing to do with their genetics and everything to do with socio-economic and political issues. Okay,
No,
Christianity. Hold on one second.
genetics.
Hold on one second. The Christian faith has been the thing that has sustained black African communities against apartheid. The vast.
Don't say that, Bob.
It's true.
That's patronising.
No.
Because it's as if you're saying
Martin Luther King would disagree with you.
But it's as if you're saying without Christianity they wouldn't have been able to do the same stuff.
No, I'm not saying that.
All right. So what are you saying?
I'm just
then?
saying a historical reality, which is the truth. That regardless of how they came about it, the Christian faith has been the nourishing of the black African community in America through apartheid, and that's a truth. It's a reality.
It has nourished them through.
Are you denying it?
No. It has nourished them through, Jim Crow. It
Yep.
nourished them through
Yep.
all this
The
kind
Ku
of
Klux
thing.
Klan.
The Ku Klux Klan.
It
all
helped
of
them. It helped to organise them in the fight against apartheid.
100%.
The churches
But it
were
is-
fundamental to that
But it's
structure.
not the reason they did it.
You know, when you look at those.
Do you understand, Bob?
Hold on,
It's
hold
not the reason that they did it. Christianity
Actually,
is not the reason.
That's not true. That is not true.
Christianity is the reason.
Yes.
So you're saying to me, people that have been oppressed, right, regardless of what religion that they have in their hand,
Yeah.
regardless of what book, will not rise up and go against the oppressor. Is that what you're saying? It depends on the book they've got in their hand. It depends on the religious
Hold
book.
on one second. No. I'm not saying that people won't rise up against oppression. What I am saying is the thing that inspired those particular people in history to rise up against their oppression was the Bible. And that's a fact. When Martin Luther King was appealing to existential reasons as to why apartheid was wrong, he quoted the Bible.
Yes, because we have. Okay, so you have to. Okay,
So it's a truth then.
Hang on. Marcus Garvey did the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, Marcus Garvey was a Christian.
Yeah.
Right? And I love Marcus Garvey. However, Marcus Garvey wasn't stupid. He knew he had to use the tools at his disposal to galvanize the people against the oppression.
Yeah.
So if I'm in a place where all I've got is the Quran, right, and I need to galvanize the people, I need to use the things at my disposal.
Yeah.
Now we all know that we're oppressed, but we need to. I can grab the Quran and say, listen, in this verse, someone, and we're going to use that to inspire us and galvanize us.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to
So
say
my
is,
answer to my response to that, to prove you wrong that the book does make a difference, is where was the emancipation movements in the Islamic world?
there are none.
There are none. And
are
there
none.
still are none.
There are none.
And Africans are still being taken as slaves by Muslims
Agreed.
in Africa.
Agreed.
Yeah?
Agreed.
So, but look at the Christian world, trade. I'm not here to justify it or defend it in any way. But were there emancipation movements?
Hang on.
Were there emancipation movements in the
The
West?
psychology, though.
Answer
of
the
Islam.
question.
No, I'll get to it.
Did white people partake in emancipation
course
movements
they did.
in the West?
Of course they
And
did.
what inspired them?
The Bible.
Thank you.
But
So it does make a difference which book you're reading.
no, but listen to what I'm trying to say, Bob. In the Islamic world, if we're going back to the Islamic world, right, where
Yeah.
there's been no real uprising,
Yeah.
black people have been in that position for 1,400 years.
Yes.
Right? They actually revel. What is taught, not because we know that the Islam is not just the Quran.
Yeah.
Right? It's all the hadiths and it's all the other teachings and it's a socio-economic standing. It is taught to black people that they are less than.
Yeah.
It's taught to them. Okay?
Yeah.
So I've spoken to black Muslims here and they don't think that it's a problem. They won't even speak about it. They're like, oh, well,
Yes, I
you
know.
blah,
I've
blah.
spoken to the same people.
Right, because the subjugation and the
Oppression.
oppression and the psychological effects run so deep.
Yeah.
I don't know when the Arab world and Muslim world is going to have some kind of, uprising with the black people there, but it needs to happen. However, like I said, Nat Turner also used the Bible, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is when you oppress a people, you don't necessarily need a book, because the people in Haiti, the Haitian Revolution, those people, those African people, rose up against the French,
Yep.
and they used African spiritual practices. If they had the Bible, they could have done the same thing.
I'm not denying
Right.
denying that other things have inspired people. I'm not making the argument that
Your
the
argument
Bible
is that the Bible in this instance was the thing.
that is the historical reality. That is the historical reality. Now, let's be clear.
In that case,
Wait,
but
hold on.
it didn't need to be.
Hold
though.
on one second. You know who Cassius Clay was, right?
Nah, I kind of.
Are you thinking
Kinda
Muhammad
know
Ali?
him.
No, I'm talking about the real Cassius Clay, the
okay.
historical figure Cassius Clay.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Muhammad Ali.
No, I'm not talking about Muhammad Ali.
No,
Muhammad Ali was a fool who took on the name of a slave trader, Muhammad and Ali, two slave traders, and abandoned, because he was brainwashed, to dismiss a name of Cassius Clay. Cassius Clay was a real emancipationist, a Christian who advocated for the abolition of slavery at the founding of America.
Okay.
So Muhammad Ali, that buffoon, goes,
But he was a good boxer.
I don't want to take it.
But he was a good boxer,
He was
though.
a good boxer until Henry Cooper knocked him on his arse. But he was.
Yeah, but he still won.
Anyway,
still won.
let's not get into a debate about boxing.
People get knocked
They
down and
slit
they
the glove.
still won.
They slit the glove. They slit the glove. But the point of the matter is, Muhammad Ali, like so many people who join these sort of Pan-African movements like the Nation of Islam, the Hebrew Israelites, the Kemits, one second.
There's no such thing as the Kemits.
Okay,
There
Kemetic
isn't.
philosophy.
There isn't.
They have been brainwashed, and I'm going to use Muhammad Ali as an example. Muhammad Ali says he didn't want a slave name, Cassius Clay. So what he took was a slave owner's name, Muhammad Ali, right? Cassius Clay
I can't even
was
speak
a
against it,
Christian. Some research for you.
Yeah, I can't
So
speak.
was a Christian who opposed the slave trade and was inspired to do so by the Bible.
Was he a European?
He was.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, let me just be clear, right? This is the history of how Christianity has been interplaying into this whole dynamic of slavery over Christian history. Because we know Christians have been as guilty as having slaves as
I got
anyone
5
else.
minutes.
Yeah. What time is it, mate?
It's 2:05.
5 past 2. That's fine.
Go
Okay.
and see the children.
Yeah, it's more important than
Yeah,
here,
of
mate.
course, of course.
In the morning. And just so you know, right? Like, just for those of you that might be new to all of this brother here, right, had a death threat put on him. That Islamic Dawah team are connected to people who conspired to kill this man, to kill the person stood in front of you because he was challenging Islam. Now, he can challenge me as much as he wants.
I don't think you're going to conspire to kill
I
him.
will never conspire to kill him. Do you know why? Because the book that you're reading makes a difference. And I am taught to love
In that sense, I
my
agree
enemies.
With you. I agree with you.
I come taught to love. So he is opposed to me ideologically, and I am opposed to him, but I'll never seek to hurt him. I want to convince him through love and reason that there is a better way. Yeah?
Ain't going to happen, but you
Well,
can try,
I'm
mate.
going to try hard. So, right, in 873, Pope John VIII banned the holding of Christian slaves. In 960 AD, Doge Pietro IV banned slave trade outright in all of his sovereignty. In 1080 AD, William I banned slavery in England and Normandy. In 1117 AD, slavery was banned outright in Iceland. In 1220 AD, the Sachsen-Spiegelberg condemned slavery, quoting directly that it was an affront to the image of God that all men were made in. In 1256, Bologna banned slavery outright. In 1315, King Louis X of France banned slavery completely and declared that any slave entering his kingdom was automatically free. By contrast, Islam. Qatar banned slavery in 1952. Iran banned slavery in 1929. Iraq banned slavery in 1924. Morocco banned slavery in 1922. Egypt banned slavery in 1895 because of the British.
I'm not, so have you got Mauritania?
Mauritania banned slavery in
2000
1981. That's what I've got.
2007.
Fair enough. Oman banned slavery in 1970, and here's the clutch, here's the clincher. Saudi Arabia, where Islam has been unchallenged for 1400 years and has dominated that culture, banned slavery in 1962. So that's the difference the books make. It is important. And I'm saying to you, as a black nationalist, your cause is just. It is important that people help to improve the situation of black people in society who are recovering from a historical injustice.
Yeah.
But you don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I will say this. I do not disagree, right, that the Christian nations have banned slavery before the Muslim nations have banned it, right? However, like I said, the cycle, I'm dealing with what I have now, okay? So I'm saying the current form of Christianity, in its current form...
Which Ethiopian Orthodox Church is.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I'm talking about when I say that, Bob.
Yeah, but
I'm talking about white Jesus.
I am correcting you that
No,
Jesus
no.
is not portrayed
Because,
as
all right,
white.
But you have to find me black people generally.
35 million in Ethiopia.
Yeah, but when Ethiopia
20 million in
generally that don't have that. First of all, have the Ethiopian Christian teachings, because that's what 81 books, I believe. It's 81 books, right?
There's a difference in canon.
They've got the 81 books in the Ethiopian Bible. And
Do you know what they are?
I can't name them. I'm not a Christian.
I know what they are.
Yeah, good for you. That's what you're supposed to. It's your history.
Thank you. My history.
What was I going to say? Yeah, the current form of Christianity that black people have, I would say, is a hindrance. And the reason why I say that is because you are waiting, okay, waiting on someone just ain't going to turn up.
That's not true.
Ain't going to turn up.
That's not true, because you're assuming that...
And not only ain't going to turn up, I would say that Jesus must be a black guy, because he's got black man's timing.
Right.
Because we're still waiting on that motherfucker and he ain't arrived yet.
Brother. So let's not be disrespectful. I would ask you.
I've got to roll out though, Bob. Do you know what I'm saying?
All right. So I'll leave you with this point.
Yeah, go on.
And this is my final point, and we'll just stop.
It's been interesting.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
It's the first
it really
time,
has,
it's
the first time. And it just goes to show that people can oppose one another without having to descend in the kind of things that the Islamic Dawah team have brought to Speaker's Corner. But my point to you is this, right? I get the fact that the church wasn't dealing with your questions. And unfortunately, and I'm going to say this to the camera, there are lots of churches that are not dealing with the questions that are coming from their congregations. And particularly in the black church at the moment, a question that has to be dealt with is the question of black identity and the question of the slave past, right? And the churches have got to grapple with those things. But the church is black as much as it is white, and it has always been black as much as it is white. And Africans are as much a part of the church history as Europeans are. Christianity is not a white man's religion. It is a religion for the world and for all nations, including your own.
Fantastic. And I'll say this in closing. Black people existed before Christianity, before Judaism, before Islam. And so we existed within nations, okay, that flourished. So we don't necessarily need either Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. And though you are a Christian, and that's fine, and though there are many black Christians, what I'm trying to tell black people is that we don't need this, okay, to actually go into the future.
Okay. It's a pleasure talking with you. You look after yourself. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Peace, family. Peace.
Take care, guys.